Trios are the key to a permaculture orchard. So let's unlock it and take a walk. One thing that really differentiates this orchard from another is that we're no longer planted as a monoculture orchard. That's what we want to move you away from. So flee from the monoculture orchard.
Flee from the monoculture orchard.
It's evil. No, it's just not logical. We want to switch you to a biodiverse pattern with a polyculture of species, of trees, of shrubs, of perennials. No longer this pattern of all the same tree in a row. It's monoculture, it's boring, it's passé. We planted this orchard right from the beginning in what I've called a trio system. It's a biodiversity right from the start in the trees and also in other plants, but let's just start with the trees. And it starts with nitrogen fixers. We add nitrogen fixers in the orchard, and we have a whole range of them, and I'll do a video on that in the future. But that's the nitrogen fixer. And our next tree in the trio will be an apple. So that would be, when I drew it up originally, I put N for nitrogen fixer, A for apple, and P will be pear or plum. And when I first drew it, I thought, hey, look at that. The pattern, and that's what you want, a pattern, is NAP, NAP, NAP. What does that stand for? The idea was, if it works well enough, we could really take a nap. That sounded really great. Even though I say the pattern is a trio, don't be so stuck that you can't. It's an idea, but stick to the pattern as much as possible. Nitrogen fixer. Hey, you got dead trees. Sorry, but you will have trees die. Don't be too hard on yourself. It will happen. This is a 10-year-old block, and here's an apple tree died, probably from fire blight, and here's a pear tree died, also from fire blight. That gives you an idea of how a blighted leaf will look. So it happens. Then we come back to what's the pattern? Nitrogen fixer, apple, and pear again. And so you want to rotate your cultivars in the trios. So that pear is different again. But we'll come back. If we have enough room, we'll put the same one every third or fourth tree. Here's again nitrogen fixer and an apple tree here that's gone. It died too. We don't mind trees dying. We started with over 100 cultivars. We're down to 60 and we're still dropping. So that's a good thing. You want to weed out the trees that don't do well here. Nitrogen fixer, in this case, a eastern redbud, Cercis canadensis, and then another apple tree. So nitrogen, apple, pear, and so on and so on and so on. The pattern continues. Now the big thing is this pear tree is not the same as the previous pear tree. So we'll have 3, 4, 5 cultivars of pears alternating in the trios. Nitrogen fixer again. Here's apple, the same. This apple is not the same as the previous one. We'll have the same, a mix of apple cultivars in the row. So here's one. If you want to come closer, I'll show you. This tree died. And the rootstock shot up again. Since it had 3 good shoots, we put 3 grafts. Never bend down to do just one thing. We always bend down and do at least 2 grafts while we're down here. And in this case, 3 grafts, 3 took. Good success. You can have nitrogen fixer 2 fruit trees. You can have nitrogen fixer 2 nut trees. You can have nitrogen fixer a nut and a fruit. Just remember that you want that biodiversity. That's the key. Why do trios? You want there to be a diversity. Why? Because if an insect is on the pear tree and that insect doesn't like apple, and it certainly doesn't like the honey locust, it gets stuck on an island. And it's very easy to find for the birds or the wasps to find it as a pest. So isolates pests and it prevents the spread of pests and also disease. You're reducing the amount of trees that can have a certain disease. So that's some of the keys to why it works so well. Really is to reduce the workload. Plus, you do I like to be able to harvest several cultivars of apples in here, several cultivars of pears, and in this case, some plum trees as well, in the same row. As people walk through here, you want them to be able to harvest a variety of things. Simple little trick, but if people came thinking of apple and they see pear, they'll usually buy twice as much. I'm not against it. So you start to get the idea of the pattern, and permaculture is all about patterns. And for the permaculture orchard, the pattern is trios, not just trios of trees, which is what I'm showing you, but also trios vertically. So the trees are the horizontal layer, but then we have a vertical layer of trees, shrubs, and perennials. You don't see much right now because actually the shrubs are, they're just a few branches, but the pattern continues. And then we get to the end of the row, and here, if you see it as the end is this way, this is a honey locust, and here is an apple. Well, if you start your naps with an N at the start of the row, or the end, whatever, then your next row, you don't start with an N, you'll start with an A. And the third row, you'll start with the P. And the fourth row, you'd start with an N again. And that way, you don't just diversify within the row, but also between the rows. Nice thing about that is we also get a diagonal happen because we staggered it by one tree. Here's a diagonal of honey locusts all the way across through the orchard. And that diagonal happens to be north-south. And the honey locusts are the biggest trees, so they create the least amount of shade. I like that. And then we come to the end where we pile all our branches. So you may have, if you didn't take a look at a video on managing branches, so at the end of the row, we have our branches. So take home is absolutely, if you're thinking of putting in a permaculture orchard, the key is to put in trios. You'll increase the biodiversity, you'll increase the animals, each fruit tree will become as an island. It will work so much better in the end. Try it if you like it. Share it, subscribe, like, do what you want to do with it. But that's still the key to the permaculture orchard. Thanks for watching. We need to flee from the monoculture mania and move into the future, which is a permaculture orchard. Let's go continue with that. Whoa!